there, welcome back. So today I have a very heavy heart, and I'm sure many of you share that sentiment with me. You know, the footage of the Minnesota police officer suffocating a man, his knee on his neck, cutting off his air supply, as 3 fellow officers either assisted or just stood by and watched. That scene has become etched into our brains. And bystanders pleaded with him to stop, only to be met with expressions of smug arrogance. Now, one police officer suggested that George Floyd was not a threat to them. 4 policemen and a crowd of onlookers simply watched a man die for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. You know, beyond blatant racism and systemic police corruption, there is another force at work here. We'd all like to think that if we witness someone being hurt, we would rush to their aid. The truth is, it depends on how many other people are around. It's called the bystander effect, and it explains why the more people who witness a person in distress, the less likely it is that any one person will step in to help. The most famous illustration of this phenomenon is the story of 28-year-old Kitty Genovese, who is stabbed outside of her apartment building in Queens, New York in 1964. Now, the attacker ran away when she screamed for help, but not one of the 38 witnesses came to her rescue. In fact, the attacker came back and continued stabbing her for another 30 minutes while people watched her die from the surrounding apartment buildings. New York Times editor A.M. Rosenthal wrote a very classic book called The 38 Witnesses, and transformed this tragedy from an unreported incident to a front-page headline that traveled around the world. In this book, Rosenthal asked a series of behavioral scientists to explain why people do or do not step in to help a victim. Sadly, none of the scientists could offer an evidence-based answer. It was ironic, though, that this same question was answered by Kitty's killer. When the chief of detectives asked him how he would dare to attack a woman in front of so many witnesses, he calmly replied, "I knew they wouldn't do anything. People never do." Behavioral psychologists attribute the bystander effect to 2 factors: diffusion of responsibility and social influence. Diffusion of responsibility simply means that the more onlookers there are, the less personal responsibility we as individuals feel. Social influence means that we tend to monitor the behavior of the people around us to determine how to act. And everyone is influencing every other person's perception of reality by their action or their inaction. You know, when it's just you, the responsibility is all yours. But when other people are around, you're much more likely to wait to see what they will do before jumping in to help, if at all. The bystander effect even applies when it's our own safety at risk. In one study, researchers had participants fill out a questionnaire, and after a few minutes, smoke would start to fill the room from a wall vent. The people who were alone in the room took an average of 5 seconds to get up and leave the room and tell one of the experimenters that, hey, there's a fire in there. But when people were in groups, it took them an average of 20 seconds to express any kind of reaction to the smoke. In fact, the majority of the participants did absolutely nothing until the smoke was so thick they couldn't even see the questionnaire. And even then, only 3 people in 8 different trials of groups left the room. So here's the thing. The bystander effect affects us all. But now that you know what it is, maybe, just maybe, you'll be the first in the crowd to help. Want to learn more about how the brain works and how to make it work better? Check out my book, Happier Hour with Einstein, and the full-color companion gratitude journal, available now on Amazon.